Welcome back to another episode of Authors in Espresso. I'm your host, Nadia Gilks, and this is another festival flashback from 2020. This week, we're revisiting my interview of Dr. Jerry Hagen, who is the author of Thaw, The Future Whispers. As he points out, he is a sci-fi author for people like myself who don't necessarily like sci-fi. He got a lot of great feedback from his first effort, and he talks about some of the issues that he had during the publishing journey. So tune in to this revisit Dr. Jerry Hagen, author of Thaw, The Future Whispers. Our next guest comes all the way from Spain. It is actually midnight right now, so I am so thrilled that we have Dr. Jerry Hagen joining us. He's a retired doctor who decided to become an author in his next chapter. He published a somewhat of a sci-fi book called Thaw, The Future Whispers, and along his journey, he realized that becoming an author isn't quite as easy as he thought it would be. So I can't wait to hear about his journey, his revelations, because yes, when you are publishing and putting yourself out there will be twists and turns in everybody's journey. So coming to the stage now, please help me welcome Dr. Jerry Hagen. How are you?
Thank you, Nadia. And it's a great privilege to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, I'm so glad that you came because just like Shonda, when I was putting this festival together, I wanted a variety and I didn't have anyone on the roster that was a sci-fi author. So I was glad that we crossed paths. But you say that your book is a sci-fi book for people who don't normally read sci-fi. So explain that a little bit. What's your story about?
Okay. I really wrote the story for my grandchildren or maybe their grandchildren. This is my reflections on life, done my 3 score and 10, and technology has advanced so fast. Now, Maya Thaw or Mia Thaw, The Future Whispers, Maya Thaw is an anagram of what am I? And the whispers could be a verb or a noun, whichever you want. And what I've written, I have to say this first before you think this is heavy, it's a fast reading narrative. It's got a lot of banter in it. That's an English word. It means playful repartee between the guys and the women in it. And it's about 300 years in the future. And basically, at that time, people have learned how to, I call it deep downloading, where you can download your brain into the cloud and mix with other people in the cloud. Now, the book, that sounds like science fiction, but really what I'm interested in is I think that might actually happen, and I'll come back to that. But when you do that, what will be the effects on society and humanity? What will be effects on politics, sociology, religion, philosophy? Because if you've downloaded into the cloud, you've now become immortal, for example. And where would that be in terms of religion, especially Western religions? I have to jump back a little bit. I've traveled a lot in my life, and Eastern religions are quite different from Western Abrahamic religions. And I think, and this is taking place in the planet Earth. It's the main people are the World League, run by President Rossini, who's a bombastic, dominant president. There are also fundamentalist states still around, or he calls them fundamental states. So that's a scenario. The main characters are Kenny, and I don't want to spoil the plot, but
Don't spoil the plot because we have to be able to read it for ourselves.
By the end of the book, there's 3-4 Kennys. The other person who's big is Siobhan, and there's 2 parallel stories running here. Kenny deep downloads with his friend Rob, and complications come from that. And Siobhan is working with Hero. Siobhan's from Australia, Hero's from Japan. They're the aides to President Rossini. But the World League have noticed there's suddenly a dramatic increase rate of suicides, and they can't understand why this is happening. So there's 2 parallel stories going on here. And it sounds complicated, but they do all come together at the end. But basically what I'm trying to get across is, what am I? Remember, man, that thou art dust, but we are dust that dreams. And what I'm trying to get across is science and technology are all very well, but we need philosophy too. We need to think about what we're doing and where we're going in mankind. Now, some of you are going to say this is not possible, but actually,
Well, that's the
after
beauty of books, though. It might not be quite possible yet, but when we have our
well,
imagination,
you say that after I finished the book, my wife pointed out an article in New Scientist in July, and these guys from the Institute of Future of Humanity in Oxford University, the professor there says it's not a question of if this will happen, it's a question of when this will happen.
Hmm.
And then a couple of weeks ago, Samsung announced to the business world that they were 2 years ahead of schedule, and by 2030, using 6G, you'll be able to twin yourself to the other side of the world and work remotely on the other side of the world. So I kind of thought when I was writing this story, and it's taken me years to write and think about it, there's a lot of thinking I have to do first to get this out, because it sounds complicated, but suddenly I found out that actually this is going to happen soon. And I feel like, you remember the Wright brothers took off in an airplane? How long did it take us to send rockets to the moon or Mars or whatever? Like, millions of people flying through the skies every day. So these things can happen. But what I'm getting at is it doesn't matter if it happens, it's when it happens. What will happen to the human race? Now, I don't want to sound like a polemic. This is a fast-moving book. I'm not
it's very
descriptive.
there's quite a lot in here. I started reading the first couple chapters and I love it where everybody's waking up in their pods.
Yeah.
But I have to say the way you break it down is a little scary because I don't know if I want to be in a time where my thoughts get downloaded or uploaded to a cloud and then intermingle with other people. Some people I don't want to be intermingled with in person right here, right now in 2020. There's a lot of people saying, even after the pandemic, some people need to stay away from me. So I don't know if I need my thoughts intermingled with anybody.
Well, yeah, but what they upload to is Imagination City, which becomes the perfect world. And one, Kenny has several love interests. One is Nora, a Palestinian girl whose body is wrecked and been in hospital for years. But she lives very happily in Imagination City. So if you, this is part of the reason for the suicides. People find that living in Imagination City is much more preferable to living in their carbon state. I call it carbon state. But if you can live, if you move into the Imagination City, you're now immortal. So where would that be in terms of religion and et cetera, et cetera? But I'm not trying to give a lecture or a sermon from a pulpit. It's still a story and a very narrative story. I'm not a descriptive writer. I hate when people, crime books. She walked in the room and she was wearing a Ralph Lauren jacket and an Armani shirt. And you get to the end of the page before you reach your shoes. I don't do any of that. I do the description that you need to understand what I'm saying. And it sounds complicated, but it's all worked well. In fact, maybe I should read you some of the reviews. Oh, that's interesting about reviews. Amazon, because it's published on Amazon,
Mhm.
they don't collect the reviews. So over here, people either do the reviews on Amazon.co.uk or Amazon ES, which is Spain, but nothing goes up. So if I go into Amazon.com, where you guys are, I'll not see any reviews.
Right. Yeah.
If I go into Spain, I'll only see those reviews. If I go into the UK, I'll see those reviews. They're not brought together.
Right.
And that was something new for me. So if you
And
guys
that's something so important that we actually hadn't even talked about. But those reviews are so important to us new authors because that determines how you get ranked in the algorithms and how they promote your book on Amazon, etc. So, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned it. And you did also say that the journey to publishing was a little more difficult than you anticipated. Tell me a little bit about what happened.
well, it's like you don't quite know what Amazon are doing, and then they give you an international book number. Then next 2 days later, say you've got the wrong international book number. Well, I didn't allocate it. You allocated it. What do you think? You've gone back and forward. Can I just give you a quick summary of some of the reviews? And it's like, great read. I'm not normally a fan of science fiction, but I found this book so engaging, very well written, and I hope the author does a sequel. Now, that's a recurring theme. It's taken me years to do this, and now everybody wants a sequel. Great story, thought-provoking too. Love this book. These are all 5 stars. It was a great read during lockdown. We had a big lockdown here. I don't know how different parts of the US did different things. The story is compelling in its own right, but lots to think about too, particularly relevant right now as we can see how quickly the normal can morph into the new normal. Looking forward to more from this author. Even better than Black Mirror. Although I don't usually read sci-fi, I do love Black Mirror and found my thought even more creative and thought-provocative.
So people are asking for another one. I know you said it took you a couple years to write this one, but now that you've got the story fleshed out, do you think the sequel could be churned out a little faster, or what are your plans for a sequel?
Well, yeah, but you know how in music people have one-hit wonders? I'm frightened of that. Like, I have great ideas here, but where's my next great ideas coming from? Case Turner looks at so there's one I want to get to. Great read with philosophical, futuristic concepts woven. That's for a German guy. It grabbed me, blah, blah, blah. This one I love. Okay. This guy, this makes it all worthwhile for me.
Mhm.
Read my last book over 25 years ago.
Wow.
Don't normally like sci-fi, but when it opened my eyes, so pleased I did. A wonderful read, concisely written, believable main characters, radical yet realistic, solidly setting foundations for the sequels, which please must come, interwoven with thought-provoking ideas on religion, society, and political views and afterlife. A new theology, Star Trek reinvented, bring on a TV series. It'll be a massive hit worldwide. All right, like, I felt like going back to saying, can you pump that up a bit? Just joking.
No worries. Well, I'm so glad that you are having such a fantastic reaction to the book. Once again, the book is Mia Thaw or Maya Thaw, The Future Whispers by Dr. Jerry Hagen. And you're going to be in the breakout session a little bit, answering some author questions and talking a little bit about this sci-fi, not so sci-fi book, correct?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's about our future.
Yeah.
And what am I? Remember, what am I? Think about it. What are we?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining us all the way from Spain. So excited to have you here tonight. And once again, he is Dr. Jerry Hagen. Big round of applause. Thank you for tuning in to another festival flashback from Authors and Espresso. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe anywhere you stream podcasts so you don't miss an episode. New episodes air every Tuesday. Until next time, have a great week.